Fresh and
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. I am your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all of my buds, and we are joined by a awesome bud today, Miss Elaine Hamontree. How are you doing, Elaine? It's been a while. We were just chatting about it before I hit record. It's been like a year since you've been on the podcast. Obviously, we've hung out since then, but how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Like you said, we were just chatting about how it's been a year since I was on, and that was like our very first time meeting. And now since then, we've we've had so many great experiences and like attended so many big events together. So this is awesome. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. I mean, since then we've kind of referred to ourselves as taste buds because we both like the finer things in life and then the good food out there that apparently a lot of flesh and blood community does not agree with. But that's their problem. They are in the wrong.
They are in the wrong. They just need to like up their palate a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that Simpson meme. Am I out of touch? No, it's the kids that are wrong. But but we got a great episode. We're just gonna catch up with Elaine. We have Pro Tour coming up in 2 or I guess almost a week by the time folks are listening to this, and we're gonna talk a little bit about Richmond that just happened, and then we have like a lot of listener questions, and we'll get to them. But before we do all that, I do want to shout out. A great way to submit listener questions is the Buds Discord. That is where a lot of the buds hang out. It's a great space, a lot of great people in there. And you get the opportunity to submit questions for all the plethora of guests we have on the show. And you can chat with all the buds about all kinds of things. It's a lot of flesh and blood, but it's also a lot of life things as well, which is kind of fun. And I also want to shout out to the Patreon, which you can find in the show notes as well. It is a great place to help keep the lights on the mics hot. All of it's very appreciated. We're trying to do some cool stuff with it. We did a video series that patrons could hop onto called Cracking Six and Making Picks. And you get some bonus apps. You get a Romping Club membership card. It's a lot of fun. So check that out. And I also want to shout out to the other podcasts that we do live every week with Gary, aka Mr. Viz, the weird pillow guy, the Bud Rush Bellow that we do 9:30 Eastern on the Fresh and Buds YouTube channel, which I do want to remind folks that when we get to 500 subscribers on Fresh and Buds YouTube, I will be doing a full adult Levia cosplay, and Gary will be the rabbit that she sacrificed. So that will be a lot of fun when we get there. We're getting close, and I'll also drop this little nugget for the folks out there. That cosplay will not be my first cosplay because I'm getting stuff together for Pro Tour Baltimore, but I'm not going to tell yet. It's going to be a surprise, but. All that's out of the way. Actually, no, it's not all the way. I want to shout out to Greg, our producer who's back. Greg popped himself into the podcast last week and made a very funny joke with something I said, which was great. And I'm sure he'll do something else this week. So thank you, Greg, and all the work you do. You're very appreciated.
Back to you, Tommy.
Now we're getting to Elaine. How are you? It has been, like I said, almost a year. What have you been up to? What's going on in the life of Elaine Hamontree?
So much has changed, like since we last sat here and chatted. I think the last time we talked, I had only done like that one cosplay in New Jersey, and then since then, I did like a cosplay in Vegas. Did one in Nationals, played in Nationals, won a Taylor card in Nationals. I moved from Louisiana to North Carolina. I think Pitch Perfect like wasn't even a thing last time we talked. Maybe it was like an idea or something we had just announced, but now it's like a full-fledged its own thing. We have a lot to catch up on, Tommy.
Yeah, we do. It's been a lot. So actually, we'll talk about a little bit of cosplay stuff, but I want to get to Pitch Perfect. So as a podcaster and lover of podcasts, I very much appreciate the existence of Pitch Perfect in the Fab sphere. Not spear. Did I say spear? Sphere. I can talk. Maybe I'm not that good of
it's
a
Monday.
But tell us kind of like not the elevator pitch, but kind of like the idea behind Pitch Perfect. You know, how did the great minds of Melody and Elaine meet to kind of create such an awesome podcast that actually really, which I appreciate, gives off just positive vibes in general.
Well, I appreciate that. But yeah, Pitch Perfect is a flesh and blood podcast, but it's more geared towards like the women in the community, and it's also, I think, geared towards everyone because we just kind of want to bring some light to these subjects that I think don't get enough attention. Melody and I started the podcast just kind of, it was supposed to be a one episode, one-off thing, just to talk about our experiences as women in TCG spaces. And then once we actually met to plan that one video, we were both just kind of like, this is bigger than both of us. And I think it like deserves a lot of awareness, and we want to attack it from different perspectives, from like what it's like to talk about inclusivity in TCG spaces from a player's perspective, from a judge perspective, from like an LGS owner's perspective, like from like, so all these different perspectives that we wanted to bring in that we realized were bigger than just one episode. And then since then it's kind of like spiraled. Like we just had James White on last week, and we're currently, hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have some really big news coming that'll be kind of more tangible than just a podcast, because really the vision for this is just to create like community involvement rather than just speak about it. But it's been a really, really fun project to take on with Melody, and she is great, and I couldn't do any of it without her. But yeah, it's been great. I never thought that I would get into content space until I found Flesh and Blood, but it's something that like I've truly found a passion and I really enjoy.
Yeah, and that's pretty awesome, right? You know, inclusivity and just having a space for you know, underserved members of the community is very important, right? And what you guys are doing is incredibly, you know, noble and important, and you know, something that you know, like it's something that I can't really speak to from my own experiences. Like you know, I can observe from, you know, a certain amount of stuff, but I wanted to ask you, you know, in that journey of doing Pitch Perfect, how have you, you know, kind of witnessed and experienced the, I guess, openness for women in other communities within our own community throughout that journey? Has it improved? You know, what is something that could be worked upon, etc.?
So like one thing I think when I got into just like Flesh and Blood in general, and I was like started listening to podcasters like yourself and like Flake and like the Buds and Flesh and Pod and all these, that I was listening to content creators, and it just was like I love all you guys, but I was also like I want to like meet more women in the game, because all these events that I was going to for locally, I hadn't attended a large scale event yet, but all these like local events where I was the only woman most of the time, and like no problem with that, but also like representation is important, and I wanted to meet more people that I could relate to on different levels, and I can relate to you guys. So we started making content to kind of like bring that community together, and just seeing the way that's happened has been like really cool, because we get messages from people all the time like, hey, like I was really hesitant to join this space that like my male friends were playing, or my husband was playing, or my boyfriends are playing, and like finding your podcast has kind of like made me feel more comfortable in this space. Or like, hey, you know, I met this person through your Discord that now I've met. Now, like we both went to nationals together, and we were like able to meet in person for the first time and connect. And like I felt more comfortable knowing these other women were going to be there if I needed anything. So that's been really awesome. And then kind of like you said, like a side effect of it that we kind of hoped for but weren't really sure how it was going to work out, was just having a male audience also that's listening to these conversations and being like, you know, I've never really thought about how that might impact a woman, or like how they might be experiencing these things, or like just I've never really thought about it from that perspective, because you don't like naturally have, like you said, it's like a different experience for us in some aspects. And so I think just having the conversations has raised like a level of education that's also been really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, Flesh and Blood as a game is kind of this underdog, right? That's really keeps winning somehow. I mean, not to say dismiss their wins. They're doing great things, and it's all great work being made. And a lot of that came from a large community-driven efforts, right? We all, we saw, I had Smithel on like 2 weeks ago. He decided to make a commoner league, right? And like that was one way that he could support the community and grow the game, right? And then you can have, other folks out there, just doing stuff to make sure that Flesh and Blood lives. And within that, I think that, representation in the game is in a kind of a spot where we could really take that same spirit that folks kind of like took to grow the game, because I said it before, like the more people playing the game, the better, right? That's what we want, and we want all kinds of people playing it. And I just want to say I applaud kind of your efforts there, and I hope the buds out there, kind of do the same thing. And we
have crossover. We have a lot of crossover. Yeah.
and I think that, it's very important, right? It's great to sit down and play a game, but it's great to kind of it not be exclusive, right? We don't, this is not, a country club or anything like that. This is for everyone, obviously. Yeah. And for all kinds of people, and then all kinds of socioeconomic statuses, right? I just mentioned the commoner. This is just like, that's just another way to be inclusive. So it's pretty awesome. I love seeing community efforts, especially in the content area that you're all doing. So, but that being said, I know from being a content creator that there are challenges, right? In content creation. And, like you said, this was your first foray into it. What are some like challenges and lessons that you've learned in the content creation game so far?
Like definitely the biggest has just been like the actual work that goes behind it. I feel like Melody is much better at just like the Twitter hype. No one can take that title from her, right? She's just like amazing at that, and she loves doing it. And so like she kind of takes on just like the social media aspect of our Twitter, and I do all the editing behind the scenes. And like I had no clue how to like edit anything. And like going into this, when we first announced we were gonna make a video, we had so many people reach out, as being one of them, and they were like, hey, if you want me to edit your video for me, you like send it over. And then when we realized this was gonna be like a podcast and not just a one-time video, I was like, hey, Az, can you meet with me? And like he taught me everything that I still know about actually editing the videos. And Smithel helped me create the Discord when we decided to do that. Like just the outreach from the community and like willingness to help has been really, really good. Greg, your producer, has helped us a lot with our sound, because people complain about our sound a lot. I'm very sorry. I try my best. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, I really just don't know what I'm doing. That's been like the biggest learning curve, is like figuring out how to actually produce content. And then actually maintaining content is really hard too. Like trying to have a guest on, and then also my co-host being in New Zealand. And it's like the scheduling for that is really, really rough sometimes.
I can imagine.
So like, yeah, like just straight up, those are like the two biggest obstacles. And I always have to like watch anytime someone's like, I'm complaining about the sound, or like, you guys should do this. This would be better. I'm like, okay, YouTube, how to like please, like video editing for dummies, because I have no clue what I'm doing. So that's been like a big like learning curve, is actually just trying to figure out like how to put content together and like actually produce it and what works best with recording and all that. Thankfully, Melody is like great at promoting it, and she's also super organized, much more than me. She reins me in a lot, which is great.
Yeah, I guess you need that sometimes, right? And like, I can't imagine. So, you know, I have guests on every week, and scheduling is tough. But if I were to throw someone else in there, you know, that is some crazy time difference as well. I mean, I would. I don't know how you do it, to be honest, because it's
Like,
it's a lot.
it's crazy. It's a lot. We'll like record here and then record with someone in France as our guest, and like Melody's in New Zealand, and we're all like, okay, so time. Like, okay, so it's like we've actually missed recordings because Melody, like today is Monday for us, but like in New Zealand for Melody, it's like what 10:30 in the morning on Tuesday.
Mhm.
And so it's like we'll be like, okay, we'll catch up on Monday. And we're both like, cool, catch up on Monday. And then it's Monday and she's like, where are you? And I'm like, Monday is tomorrow. And if you don't specify, that's a lesson we had to learn early on too, is that we live in literal different days, not just time zones, but different days.
Yeah, I've found myself saying your time so much, like in any scheduling that I do, right? We'll do it this your time, and I'm like, all right. Then I do the calculation myself and then move on from there. But yeah, it's pretty incredible that you're all like are able to do that, and you know, I applaud it. You know,
It's tough. I always feel bad, like if we miss a week of content or something. But I'm like, guys, like Melody and I both also work 9 to 5 like jobs, and so it can be tough. It is, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. But that's the biggest challenge for sure.
Oh yeah, keep that in mind, folks. You know, I would say probably 99% of flesh and blood creators are working a whole nother job
Yes.
as well. So, you know, cut us some slack sometimes. And also, you know, to any content creators that might get, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you know, change this, change that. You know, it can be a lot sometimes, but it is the positive you can take away from that is people want more.
But yeah,
or-
it's super
yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
It's super helpful. It's very nice. I love the constructive criticism. It's very helpful. But also then it's like, okay, I know I need to fix that, but I might not be able to fix that till next week because I still got to figure out a time to like record and edit in my schedule and then learn how to do that on top of it. But like I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah. Oh my God. So yeah. Now that's like I guess negatives. It's not really negatives. Just like comes with the territory. But what have been some highlights in your journey? I mean, I know you just had a chat with the big Papa James White, Jimmy Blanco, recently. How was that?
That was awesome. James is like a really fantastic guy. It was wild. I don't know if you watched the episode. He like cuts out like just like abruptly, but we got through the whole thing because we had like scheduled like an hour. We had some like stuff to talk to him beforehand about like outside the podcast. So then when he sat down and jumped on the video call, he was like, "Hey, just so you guys know, like I forgot my computer charger. So my life, like the battery on my computer is at 30%. So like we got to get everything done in like 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes." And we're like, okay, let's do this. Like we ran through it. It's probably the most organized we've ever been on a podcast, but like James he's just so good at this. Like he's just like, I know he does interviews all the time, and you could tell he was so professional, so good at it. He was like, I know that we have less time than we expected, but I already like looked at your questions. I think I can answer them all if we just like stay on topic. And so we were like, all right, let's do it. And it was really great. I felt like it was really fruitful. We got everything that we wanted to get out of that episode. And he cut off like right at the perfect time when he's answering the last questions. And we were like, yay, we did it. It was a very, very proud feeling of accomplishment. Even though it was, I guess, not the best way to end a podcast, but it was like a whirlwind. And as soon as it ended, I was like, man, I've never been so like laser focused and just like, yes.
Well, that's the beauty of podcasting in a way. You know, it's it's not scripted, right? What we do, I mean, we have like, right now I'm looking at an outline, but this is just to keep me on track, right? It's not a scripted thing. It's essentially a performance, right? We're performing like a conversation, although it is a real conversation, but some things that happen performance, like, someone's feed cuts out. Well, all right. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Now, outside of Big Papa White, what have been some other highlights?
I think the community that we've like managed to create and the feedback from the community, and also just like really cool, I think opportunities that we've gotten. Like I know like the Realm games, they were able to like involve us in their content creator for their fall brawl for Ohio. Like that was awesome. Just kind of like stuff we wouldn't expect. And then like just the appreciation from LSS through getting like content creator packs and reveal cards. Like I don't know, when I picked up a Flesh and Blood card and was like, okay, reluctantly, like, fine, teach me how to play after the Azalea incident. It's like, I'll try again. Like, I never thought that a year later I would be doing like reveal cards for the game and like sitting having conversations with James White and sitting here having conversation with you for the second time, and like being able to like go to events like as a content creator and as a cosplayer and being able to just like meet people. I think it's given me a lot more outreach into the community, and just that's something I'm really grateful for, because the whole idea behind it was to get more connected with the community, and that's like that has been a really fruitful part of it, and that's I think all I can ask for from creating content.
It's pretty awesome, yeah, and the community is great, and you get the opportunity to make friends, buds, as I like to call them, and it's a ton of fun, and I think content creation is a great way to do it, and especially podcasts, right? I think podcasting is excellent at doing that, because folks kind of get to hear how we are, right? And like it kind of feels like you're in the car with, or however you listen to your podcast. They're on the train, in the car, at the computer with you. It's kind of fun. Now, you mentioned that you moved to North Carolina from Louisiana. Big move. That's a huge move.
Yeah.
How have you enjoyed your time there so far?
I've really loved it. I mean, this is like, I don't know. Since I moved, I feel like life's just been going right. It's been keeping me very busy. So like in some ways, I feel like I've like stepped back, but I also feel like in some ways the community probably hasn't even noticed that, because sometimes I'll like tweet out and be like, hey, I'm still here, but I feel like I'm just like busy and thinking like, I haven't like attended like a large scale event since I moved here. But also I think that's kind of normal for people, right? To not hit every large event. So it's been really fun though. It's been like a really great experience for me to move out here, start some work in my career, get more connected there. And then also it's connected me more to the Flesh and Blood community here has been really amazing. It's like where I was living in Baton Rouge, and then I moved to a different part of Louisiana, which didn't really have a Flesh and Blood scene. So I was like really missing out on it there. And then moving here, I mean, this is like definitely the largest Flesh and Blood community that I've been a part of. I can go to an armory like literally 6 nights a week if I wanted to, which I do want to. I just can't always.
It's hard. I mean, six is great, but it's tough to do that. Now, are there any shops in the area in particular you want to shout out that you've really enjoyed and like going to for armories?
Yes, Mighty Meeple. They've been really great. They did like the Super Armory for nationals. If anyone went to that, it's a really cool store. It has like a massive play area, so that's really nice and accommodating. And it also has a bar inside, which is, if you're over 21, is pretty cool. Like go have a beer and like enjoy getting off work and play some Flesh and Blood. That's really fun. I really love that. And Victory Point and Gamers Alley, those are like my 3. Like if I'm gonna hit an armory, I really love that place. Victory, like those stores are just really accommodating to us, and they have really great play areas, and I recommend checking them out if you're ever in the Charlotte area.
I will say I wish here in Jersey, I had a shop with a bar in it because, I mean, as the folks know, I play very bad decks and I could use that beer. So I got to wait till after the armory, unfortunately.
This is what ProQuest was at Mighty Meeple, and like after I scrubbed out of ProQuest, I like bubbled out at that ProQuest for top 8, and so I was just kind of like, man, like so close. But I'm gonna stay and watch top 8 because my friends made it, and I'm gonna like have a beer and just like be proud of myself and watch them play. And that was like really nice.
It's pretty awesome, not gonna lie. Now, is there, I want to ask this because what you did was it's like a brave thing to do, right? To kind of just move to a whole new place, right? And I think like some buds listening will do this at some point in their lives. Was there anything that you did to help acclimate yourself to, a new location and area? And is there anything you would recommend for any buds out there that would do the same?
So when moving, I like tweeted out and was like, hey, I'm moving to this area, which like maybe not everyone's comfortable doing with for safety reasons, but at the same time, you guys know where I am anyway. I can't really hide it at this point, right? So I like tweeted out, and Nationals was in Charlotte, so that was like great. But immediately, like I had people in the area reaching out to me and being like, hey, I'm a player in this area. Like, let me add you to our Discord. So it's like before I moved here, I like already knew like the armory schedule and like was able to just like hang out in the Discord and like become familiar with the players and like know the players. So like that was really great because I moved here not knowing anyone and honestly like super on a whim. Like when I flew up here for a job interview, rented a car, drove to a job interview, drove back to the airport and flew home like in the same day, and then was like they called me a week later and like, you got the job, and I was like, okay, cool, I need to move in like a month. It was like a very much like whirlwind, but like coming here and like knowing that I already had a place where I like belonged, quote unquote, and like people that I knew before I even like knew my coworkers, that was just like a really comforting feeling. And then since then, I've also gotten like a lot of involved with like groups outside of Flesh and Blood, where I just like Googled like, like they're sustainability groups, right? Because I'm an environmental scientist, so like I'm very interested in that and like getting involved with that side of the community. And luckily in Charlotte, and if you move to like pretty much any big city, like there's something always going on. And so like every weekend I'll just Google like free events happening in Charlotte, or like sustainability groups like meeting in Charlotte, or like volunteer opportunities in Charlotte. And like I'll just go do something and like put myself outside of my comfort zone. And that's helped just a lot, just to like feel more connected to the community here, not just in Flesh and Blood, but like the greater community of Charlotte and the place that I live.
Yeah, and that's a kind of a great thing to take, to heart. Like if you're in a new space, right? I think there's always people that want to, we're just social beings, right? We can't help it. Like there's always going to be groups. So yeah, that's awesome that you found some, sustainability groups. That's like, that's like double awesome, right? Get to be social and then like also like really smart. But like, it's really cool. So, I'm glad that you're really enjoying yourself in North Carolina. I'm happy that you kind of made that jump, and it's been good for you, and I hope anybody else that kind of does something similar, they kind of they find their way too, and hopefully the big events you'll be showing up to more often. Once life slows down, right? We got tons of stuff going on, and you have a podcast, like give us a break. We'll make it to the events, but
I'm trying.
But now, speaking of events, let's talk some outsiders, some flesh and blood. Elaine, are you ready? I'm going to do the fresh faves. I always do this every episode. We're going to do it just for outsiders because I believe you gave us your fresh faves last time you were on.
Yes.
And we're going to just strictly outsiders. So if you're ready, I'm ready.
I think I'm ready.
All right, awesome. First, who is your favorite hero from Outsiders?
Azuri, definitely Azuri. I'm a little bit addicted to her. I think she's really cool. I think she kind of plays like completely new mechanics that we haven't really seen in the game this like so far. She's sneaky. She's assassin, which was a class I was really interested in, but she kind of, when you play her, you got to have that poker face, which is the same reason I loved warrior. So you kind of get that, I don't know, for me it's like a rush, you know, like
Yeah, you want to surprise people, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. And Azuri, gosh, I mean, changed the game, and certainly might be the most competitive hero out of Outsiders that isn't maybe Azalea, but but she was around before. She's old news. Azalea, sorry, Azalea Colt. I know you're listening.
Sorry, Azalea Colt. I think I offend them every time I open my mouth. So
you know what? Listen, the Azalea Colt's eating good right now. You know,
they are. They're living their glory, and I'm very happy for them. I just can't bring myself to participate, but I'm very happy for them. You know.
Well, you know what? When Azalea becomes S tier, which might even be close, I'm sure they'll hop off the wagon and join the Riptide Guild, which is way cooler anyway. Love Riptide. Now, what is your favorite weapon from Outsiders?
So technically it didn't come out on Outsiders, but I've really been enjoying like Spider's Bite. I know there are other ones that they're all the like little different bites. Just in general, I think they're really fun. I think there was a lot of complaints about them just being like, what is it, 2 for 1 or something?
Mm-hmm.
Or
2 for 1, go again.
Yeah, and there was a like, oh, that's like not really good, right? That's not like on rate, so to say. And when we filmed with Brian Gottlieb, he was like, sometimes you guys got to focus on not just like what's on rate and just focus on like how much value you can get out of the card. And I've been really enjoying that. I think like my Azuri deck so far ran a higher number of blues, and so usually I have like the leftover resources from my turn anyway to come in with that first. And I didn't realize how annoying it was. Like when I was just playing it, it wasn't until I played against the Spider Bite till I really saw the true value of it, because I was like, that's like annoying as shit. Sorry, I don't know.
You can curse. It really is.
So, but like it is. It's like an annoying like little card, and like if you have the resources in your deck, I think it's really good, and it's kind of tricky to play around, and kind of like once again with Azuri just reminding me of Warrior. Like it kind of reminds me of the Sabers, where it's like you don't really want to block that, but sometimes you get into the situation where you have to, and I like that about them.
Yeah, they're very cool, and I actually, I really like the design on them, and the auxiliary daggers that they gave Assassin as well. They all kind of functionally kind of similar, right? But really just neat, and it feels like you can feel the flavor oozing out of them too. Now, what's your favorite equipment from Outsiders?
I'm not like a Guardian player, which I feel like this is more far, but Vambrace of Determination, I just like that it's like clearly like a Crown of Seeds counter, right? And I think that with Oldham still being like really present in the meta, a lot of us like weren't sure if that was going to be the case after all that BNR announcement where they banned like Winter's Wail and all that. But then I think it's just a reminder that like LSS knows what they're doing, because they're like, no, Oldham's still going to be a problem. Like here's a little tech against him. And some people, I don't know, I feel like sometimes sideboard cards can be, and like they feel a little more annoying because it's like, okay, well, this is obviously a sideboard card, so it's like less cool because of that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I like that, right? I like that LSS takes the time to like consider that sideboard cards are important, right? That's like part of the game. The game works because of like we have different heroes. So sideboard cards are just as important as just like any other main staple in a deck. And so I like seeing that. I like just like knowing that LSS is taking care of us,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And sideboard legendaries are, I think, a nice way to kind of print a legendary, right? That is good for some things, but since it's sideboard and maybe the meta won't call for it or whatever, like in a given time, it makes the legendary not that expensive, and I think less expensive legendary is probably better for the game. I mean, sure, you want them to hold value, but let the cold foils hold the value. Give me all the rainbow foils at $40 or whatever. That's a lot better. So it's kind of neat that kind of solves that that age old complaint about Flesh and Blood. Oh, the legendary is too expensive. Now tunic and whatever, that's still crazy, but that's another conversation.
Way up there, but yeah, I agree. I think that making a legendary sideboard is a pretty smart way to go about just like the issue overall with legendaries.
Yeah, especially if it's going to be generic, right? Because if everybody can play it, it becomes like it can't be too good. Like we saw Tunic. Now Tunic, obviously, is the first thing, right? We can't come down too hard on LSS for Tunic. I think Carrion Husk is better anyway. So.
But of course you do. Now, Carrion Husk is really good. I wish that was a generic card, but I can't even imagine the price if it was. So
yeah, I mean that card jumped up anyway with the announcement of the next set. Now, what is your favorite kind of your run of the mill card? Your attack actions, non-attack actions instance?
I honestly like looking for a scrap. I think it was kind of like fun to play. We don't have a lot of generics in this set with like that go again, and sometimes playing we have like Ravenous Rabble, right? But like not. I think looking for a scrap and Ravenous Rabble are the only like two generic attack actions that we play with go again. And like for Azuri, you're going tall and not wide, but like sometimes having that like extra damage with those like little cards where you can go a little bit wider and still go tall on a turn is fun. So that's like the one where you like banish it. It comes in at base 4 for 1, but if you banish a card with attack 1 or less, which like Assassin, we have a lot of those. I know like Ninja also does too, but it gets like the +1 for go again. So then you're coming in for 5 go again for 1 cost, and then that 1 cost is just. And then you have, if you pitch a blue, you can do the Spider's Bite into looking for a scrap into a big old tall Azuri attack. So that was one I really enjoy playing.
Yeah, it's really cool, and one of the coolest things that a lot of people realized I think about that card was that they could banish daggers, right? Because you can.
I did that.
Yeah, because in obviously in constructed you have flick knives, but in sealed and limited you do get like hurl is the one that throws one, right?
Right, hurl throws one. It deals the extra damage. It throws it. I did that line where it was like, okay, Spider's Bite, hurl, throw one, looking for a scrap, banish, and then like tall Azuri attack, and like that felt good. Like
it's pretty crazy, it's pretty awesome. So
like
those are some awesome answers there, Elaine, and I approve of all of them. And,
thank you.
I don't think I've ever really not. I mean, maybe when people go heavy into the Prism stuff, that's when I start to.
Or when people trash blue cheese on this podcast.
Oh yeah, well, we get a couple of those scoundrels on here every once in a while.
I would never. Yeah, no.
Now let's talk a little bit about Richmond. We won't get too much in depth. Unfortunately, Ethan Van Sant, our dear friend, Mansant. Was going to stream it, but ran into some issues. Luckily, I believe he did record it, and those matches will be up. So we don't really know a whole lot about like how the games went, but we have some kind of like stuff going on with like what the meta was, and it's the. I don't think there's anything this weekend that I know of like before Baltimore, but this might be our biggest tell on what is going to be showing up in Baltimore. Now there were 91 players. It looks like so 7 rounds, and that's on the smaller side on for some battle hardens. I'm not crazy small, but I feel like they usually crack 100. So take it all with a grain of salt. Let's take that into consideration. But one thing I don't like, and I tweeted about it. Well, there's 2 big goose eggs next to Leviah and Riptide. My lovers, my favorite characters. But not surprising. I thought maybe a Riptide because he's new. But what's your take on that, Elaine?
I not to say that I've been like surprised with Riptide. I feel like he got a lot of hype, and then like everyone was just kind of like immediately dismissive to him. But I was surprised to see like 0 players. You know, a lot of the times when people like get really excited and then like immediately dismiss when the hero is actually revealed and the whole set is actually revealed, you still see those people who are like, no, wait, this is actually, I'm still on the hype train. So like you said, we have less than 100 players here, so maybe that would have changed, but I've just been kind of surprised overall how quickly people jumped on and immediately jumped off the Riptide bandwagon.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a little sad. I mean, but you know, it looks like it was pretty. It wasn't top heavy, but like we have Bolton, Arachne, Phi, Dorinthia. They all had 1, and we had some 2s in here. Only 2 Rhinar, which is actually very surprising to me because I feel like in a new meta, I think folks can really spike tournaments with Rhinar. But maybe that was not the consensus here. You know, only the biggest thing here, and we'll get to the top 8 in a second. There were only 2 Icelanders and 2 Kanos, right? I feel like that's a pretty low wizard total overall for about 100 folks. You know, I know you cosplayed Icelander. Are you surprised? I know I'm surprised, but are you surprised the Icelanders kind of fallen off a bit here?
Yeah, surprised. Like looking at this top 8, that was one of the, I mean, not top 8, but meta overall. That was like, that was a big surprise for me, right? Icelander, I know that like with the bands, so with the bands, I feel like most recently we've seen like Icelander, Oldham, and Phi with that big BNR announcement that everyone expected to like be meta changing, and then it really wasn't when we saw the Indianapolis, right? And so then like looking at this to see that Oldham is still very much present and Icelander has 2 and Phi only has 1 deck represented, like that was kind of surprising to me because I feel like people, instead of just completely switching to decks, were maybe gonna like try and figure out how to get this deck, their favorite deck, the deck they've been playing on, the decks that have been top meta decks, try and get them to work in this meta. And like this is showing that really hasn't been the case. And that was surprising to me. Dorinthia only having 1, I can't say that I was surprised, but I was just kind of like a little disheartened because I feel like she was just now getting her moment to shine. And now she's back to like being, not that she was ever like well represented, but back to just being like that. Oh, there's that one person who just like can't get over Dorinthia type of deal, you know?
It's the toxic ex. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know plenty about that now, especially as a Levi player, but yeah, it is interesting. You know, so low numbers like Viscerai at 2, Rhinar at 2, and then the Wizards. Now, only 4 Briars, not terribly surprised. I just really want Briar to get Living Legend. So like, can more people play that hero, please? You know, a decent amount of this is the craziest thing, right? There 5 Katsus and only 1 Phi. I mean, if you told me that was going to be a number like 4 months ago, I would have said you're crazy. Get off this podcast now.
I feel like Dynasty like tried to do something with Crouching Tiger, Katsu, and then everyone just like immediately decided like that's a meme. Not saying it wasn't, but it was like Dynasty was like, hey, Katsu's coming back into the game. And then everyone was like, oh no, Crouching Tiger is a meme. And then like Outsiders revamped him again, and I still felt like he didn't get a lot of hype in the pre-release season. People were just kind of like, okay, like Katsu's still kind of a meme. So 5 actually, yeah, that surprised me to see that there were 5 represented. You know, he's like the only top 8. I mean, so like top 8, he's like most represented that's not in the top 8 is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah.
And
actually, it's funny. The next 8 heroes all had, or 7 heroes. Yeah, the next 7 heroes all had a hero in the top 8. So
yeah,
the most represented was Dromai, which I'm not too surprised about. Lexi coming in second there with 14 folks playing it, and Lexi obviously got a lot of juice in Outsiders. 11 Oldhams, you know, hey, whatever. And then we had 8 of Azalea, Bravo, and Azuri, interesting to see Bravo kind of make kind of a little bit of a resurgence here. You know, when Oldham is certainly, I guess maybe the more powerful hero, but I get it if you don't want to play Fatigue. who would? But and then 6 dashes. So that brings us to the top 8, right? So in the first, these are the seedings. So first place, Matthew McGinnis, a friend of the show. I call him Charles. I called him Charles once on a stream, and I'm sorry, but your name is Charles now, Matt. Pat Eschke, Jody Burney, Trenton McBride, Merritt Kemp, Lucas Bannigan, Devin Rateni, and Brody Spurlock, the kid, the fab
Brody.
kid. So that was Lexi, Oldham, Dromai, Oldham, Dash, Bravo, Azuri, and Azalea. So very diverse, right? And I think, to me, this is more diverse than we thought, especially coming out of the min-max brawl a couple weeks ago. So what do you make of this top 8?
I think this is actually a pretty healthy top 8. Azuri, the representation of Azuri, I was most excited to see. As I said, like I've kind of really taken to Azuri since Outsiders came out. So I was really excited to see the deck actually like getting some credibility and performing well. And honestly, this top 8 kind of makes me just more excited for at least to watch Pro Tour. I don't know that I'd want to play in this just because of the Ranger representation. Like as much as I trash on Azalea, I am really scared of Lexi, and I don't like sitting across from a Lexi, right? Because there's so many different builds to it. Like with Azalea, most of the time I know what I'm getting, right? There's like clearly a best Azalea meta deck that's going around that people are talking about. And I guess you could say the same is true with like Lexi, but there's also just so many different Lexi builds, and I feel like it's a lot easier to make her spicier. And so that's what kind of scares me. Like with the rest of these heroes, I look at it, I sit down across from them, I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. With Lexi, you kind of have to guess and figure out on the fly, and that's pretty scary. So I wasn't really surprised to see her doing so well with all the, and so represented with all the support that we got out. Dromai, I wasn't surprised about that either. Oldham, I wasn't surprised. I was saddened a little bit because I'm tired of the old man. But Fatigue is not my favorite. It is what it is. It's a valid deck to play. I'm just also ready. Like you're ready for Briar to hit LL. I'm kind of ready for him. Azalea is very well represented here. I mean, we had 4 total Wizards represented and 8 Azalea represented. So that's kind of crazy to think about, that we're in that phase of the meta. I like to see that. And I'm happy the Azalea people are getting some love to Azalea. Brody also, I'm sure, piloted the deck fantastic. I'm a big fan of Brody, so if he can play it in top 8, good job, Brody. I'm happy that you get to do that. Bravo. Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see Bravo as represented as he was. I think he was like the most shocking looking at this table of top 8 heroes. Just kind of like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Another one that just Guardians in general, I'm not that excited to play against, but why? Anytime I see someone playing Bravo, I'm just kind of like, why are you playing Bravo instead of Oldham? But everyone likes what they like, so I'll give it to him.
I would imagine it's 2 words, and those words are crippling crush. Because
crippling crush. I don't appreciate that though.
I don't like it either. Trust me.
I don't like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that this top 8 is so diverse. Nothing crazy surprising. The Bravo, I think, maybe surprised me the most, but I think a good Bravo player can spike any tournament. I mean, the card pool is just that good. And Dominate, is no joke, and as we've seen with Azalea. My thoughts here, looking at this, are Guardians are still the deck to beat. Now, I should also say that Pat Eschke did win with Oldham.
And the finals were an Oldham mirror, correct?
Yeah, I believe. Trenton versus Pat. And Pat took it down. Now, Pat's a guy that's made a lot of top eights, and I think this is his first big win. He's a Pittsburgh local. He's in the team Eye of the Storm. And good dude. So it is exciting. I mean, not exciting, the Guardians winning, but it also means that there's more points for Oldham, right? And that's good. When I look at this, I'm like, wow, a lot of Guardians. Not a lot of Wizards. I've been preparing for Baltimore, thinking I would run into Icelanders, but maybe that's not true. But we will see. It's a much bigger pool, and between Lexi and Azalea, some real heat coming from outsiders for these Rangers. So, is this the Ranger meta? I don't know, but it's looking like it's close enough. The most Ranger meta it's ever been.
This is Ranger meta I would like to live through, honestly. And that's another thing. Like, I might have my critiques on this top 8 and opinions, but at the very bottom of it, it's just opinions and personal preferences and what decks I like to play and what decks I like to play against. I like looking at this. I actually think this is a really healthy meta, and I'm happy with where we're at. But yeah, cool. I just don't particularly enjoy Fatigue or Ranger, which it's
personal preference. I mean, I don't love it either. I just want to play Brute and win. That's all. But I do really like Riptide, and I hope that someone breaks it, and I hope that someone is me. But it's probably gonna be someone.
I believe in you. You got it. Yeah.
Thank you, Elaine. Now, are you ready for some listener questions?
Let's do it. These listener questions, I'm excited, actually.
So the first comes from our mutual friend Flake of the Instant Speed podcast and other podcasts that he does. What is the biggest danger? Power creep or giant animated dice?
Okay, so I put a lot of thought into this when I saw this question, and I've got to go with the giant animated dice, and I have a reason, because power creep, sure, it's scary, yeah, but like there are ways to deal with it. Living Legend system is in place. Like I already said earlier in this video, like in LSS we trust. They always have a plan. But like when you see giant animated dice falling from the ceiling, that is pure fear and chaos, It's like I have no clue how to deal with this situation. I don't think anyone does. Like I trust in the game devs and the people at LSS to deal with the power creep to the best of their ability, but no one knows how to deal with giant animated dice falling through the ceiling, coming for just pure destruction and chaos for us all. So,
well, we'll have to see. Maybe your next conversation with James White, get him on the case with the giant animated dice. Next comes from Pat Shaw of Off the Rails TCG, a good friend of mine. And ours, I believe. And he asks, how did you recover from the Dikembe Mutombo-esque block out by James White when asking about Dusk Till Dawn tidbits on your interview? So for those of you who don't know, Melody and Elaine did their due diligence and asked for some Dusk Till Dawn spoilers from James White, and he shut them down. How was that?
So I can't say that I was fully kind of expecting that. We didn't interview James White and not tell him what we were planning to talk about. So he knew we were going to ask about Dusk Till Dawn, and we sent him like some questions about it. And when I asked the first one, he like gracefully kind of touched on all of the questions we were going to ask, and so I was like, I will take that as I think he meant it, and just move on to the next subject. And I'm kind of like excited, and it made me more jealous for the people who will be in Baltimore, because he did say that you guys are going to get some first looks at the set. But yeah, it was just a let's keep it going type of moment, and I see what you're getting at, and I will not get in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, you can only expect so much, right? Yeah. But we all wanted those goddamn tidbits, but I guess we'll just have to wait till next week now.
Yeah, they're coming.
Producer Greg asks, any teasers for any upcoming cosplays?
Yeah, so cosplay, not I don't want to say it's been like difficult for me, but I will answer this very candidly because I don't know the next time I'll be like at a big event that I'll be able to cosplay at. I do have like some cosplays like in the work for when that time comes because these things take a lot of time and money and effort to make, and I'm very busy. But in the meantime, I've kind of been looking at like just getting into easier cosplays that I can like take pictures of myself in my own home in the cosplay and like just kind of promote them on social media since I don't have the time to be going to these big events. So hopefully some of that will be coming up because I do miss cosplaying dearly and I want to like stay connected in the community even if I can't attend every event.
That's a great answer. Now, Sigma asks, if you could decide the place for a calling you could attend, to be able to kind of do something alongside of it, right? Like a something that you wish to do forever, and he adds the note here, like eating the best pickles in the world or something like that. What would it be, and what would that wish be? You know, what would be your dream location, and what would be the activity you did alongside of Flesh and Blood?
This is like a good I don't think this is a good location for a pro tour or a calling. I'll preface it with that, but one of like my wild dream locations is to go. I really like sharks and I want to go great white shark diving, like ideally off the coast of South Africa, but we'll see if that's something I ever accomplish. But it's one of those things that's like, if I had a reason to go besides just me wanting to like go to this crazy wild dream, I would go and then I'd be able to like check 2 things off the list, you know?
Yeah. Hey, the calling Johannesburg. When's it happening, LSS?
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Well, Cape Town would be better, right?
I can't say that like that would definitely be a good place for calling because I really don't have the knowledge to make that claim about anything. But that is something I want to do, and so.
Hey, we're putting it out into the universe. Now, this is going to bring us to, Elaine, a brand new segment that I've decided to create today on the podcast, and it's only for when you're on, Elaine. It's called Pickle Corner. Welcome to the Pickle Corner. We have a couple pickle specific questions. Oh my gosh, got pickle with her right now.
Pickle.
The first comes from Capolo, Mr. Andrea Biaggi. What is the most unusual pickled food you have tried? What food would you be curious to try pickled?
Okay, most unusual pickled food I've tried. I don't know that this is maybe unusual. Maybe it is. But one time back when I was like helping open a bar and restaurant, the owners were from India. So all of our food and menu were like Indian street food. And they made this like dish called pani puri. And it was like, I don't know, I'm going to describe it wrong, but basically the point is that it had pickled blueberries in it. And they were so good. And I ended up just like eating pickled blueberries just like by themselves apart from the dish. They were really sweet. And then we would mix it with like jalapeno and cilantro, like spicy, like it was like jalapeno and cilantro, like infused water. And you put it all in like this, like kind of like, not a cracker, that's not the right word for it, but I don't know what it, like the pani puri, like little bowl with pickled blueberries, and you fill it to the top with like this spicy water. Anyway, the like pickling plus the spice and the hint of sweetness from the blueberry, it was delicious, and I still dream about those.
That sounds so good, and to be honest, and I know we're both gin martini folks, but I feel like a vodka martini with those pickled blueberries sounds.
Yeah, that does sound really good. I had a vodka martini, and it was made, this was like 2 weeks ago. It was made with pickle juice instead of olive juice. And it was pretty good. And it had like the spicy green beans in it.
Ooh, yeah. That sounds amazing.
As far as a food, I would be curious to try pickled. I don't even know if this is possible, but like my favorite, either like lemon or coconut. Like pickled lemon or pickled coconut.
Yeah,
because those are my two other favorite foods. So to me, it sounds like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think it could work. Let's try it out.
Yep.
Next question in Pickle Corner comes from Super Legend, who asks, "Are pickles your personality, or has Twitter made them your personality?"
Okay. I think that I don't want to say I kind of want to blame it on Twitter and say that like Twitter did this to me, but at the same point, Pickles and I have always had a very like intimate relationship, I would say. So like it was always just a shared thing. Like I knew I loved pickles, my close friends knew I loved pickles, my family knew I loved pickles. Like for example, my freshman year of high school, for my birthday, some of my friends made me like a pickle sculpture with my face on it, and the pickle, me as the pickle, was wearing a crown. And like, I was an athlete for my whole life, and I was a cheerleader, and I cheered in college, and we had to like go on these runs as part of our workouts, and I hated running, so I'd always like buy a gas station bag pickle and like put it at the end of the run, so I had something to like look forward to, and like so they've always been like a very, very dear and near to my heart. But it wasn't until that I showed up with pickles at a battle harden because people told me to bring snacks because it was my first big event. They were like, bring snacks. And I was like, what advice do you guys have? And they're like, bring snacks. And I brought pickles because that was like my favorite snack. And everyone was like, who is the girl eating pickles out of her bag? Like in between rounds, like what is wrong with her? And then it kind of like blew up, and it's like now it's like a branded personality. It's not just like a secret thing that only me and my close companions know about. So take that as you will.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it predates Twitter a little bit, but hey, take it as you will, as he said. Now this comes from co-host Gary from the Bud Rush Bellow, who asks, "What's the best food you've had since moving to North Carolina that reminded you of home, pickled or non-pickled?"
This one's tough because the food here, it's food, but there's like really nothing that compares like Louisiana Cajun cooking, which is what I grew up on. And like I love spicy food, and I haven't yet to like have honestly any food since moving here that I would consider truly spicy. And I keep telling people like I like spicy food, and they're like, oh, go try this. And I try that, and I'm like, this isn't what I'm talking about. Like this isn't the spiciness for me. But to answer this just like as honestly as I can, I think when I went to like an Easter celebration at someone's house, and that was like pretty close to home, right? Because I feel like Easter meals are pretty universal, just like the deviled eggs and like mac and cheese, and like those big like holiday meals, and that has felt the closest to home. Besides the fact, like when I cook myself like a gumbo or an etouffee or something like that. That reminds me of home, but that's not really like food I've had since moving here.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I love that etouffee. This has been wonderful, Elaine. You are just incredible. Love having you on. Love chatting with you. Love your perspective on everything. And thank you for coming on. Can you please plug anything you'd like to plug?
Yes. My personal Twitter is Hamontree. I feel like I have to say it every time. That is ham on tree, like bacon on bush or pork on shrubbery. And then, like we talked about earlier, you can also find us at the Pitch Perfect Pod on like Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, I guess. YouTube. We have a Discord. If you go to our Twitter, which is also just Pitch Perfect Pod, we have a link to everything and our Discord and YouTube, and we have some exciting stuff coming. So, yeah.
Awesome. And you all can continue to find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod, and give the YouTube the old like, comment, subscribe. Got to get to that 500 subscribers so I can give you the greatest giveaway of all time, my embarrassment and your entertainment, and check out the Buds Discord, and gosh, I don't know, check out the Patreon, and be good to each other. Now, it was like and we just talked a little bit about food, but it was like the end on food, and you start talking some, Creole Cajun. What is the dish that you miss the most from Louisiana?
Currently, Currently, it's crawfish because it's crawfish season, and all my family and friends are back home, like just like having crawfish. And there's nothing like Louisiana has really good food, but it's such a big part of our culture that like when people get together to eat and you make a gumbo or you make crawfish or an etouffee, like it's just such a big like. There's always just like a big table, and everyone's like it's just in the middle, and everyone's just like eating out of it, drinking like cheap beer and just like laughing, and there's music playing, usually live, and it's just like that like big feeling of community. So currently it's crawfish. I just would love to be at a crawfish boil.
That sounds very good.
Also, shout out to Jim from Fab TCG Cards because he did have a crawfish boil, and we don't live too far from each other, and he invited me, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make it up. But I just appreciate that gesture a lot. So.
Oh yeah, Jim's the best. He actually posted a picture of his crawfish boil in the Buds Discord, and we were all very jealous because it looked delicious. So that sounds amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, everyone, please have a good week.